All right, welcome to the tournament game here at the February Fiesta in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Number 3 started us off serving. This is going to be a fight. Number 4 gets it over. And number 1 on the other side goes for a kill, doesn't get it. Score now is 0-1. We're not starting off at 4-4. We're starting off at 0. Number 3 again serving for the Aces. Serve is good. Up by number 24. Up by number 3. Over by number 4. And not returned by the other team. Should have mentioned we're playing the Oklahoma Peak in the final game here at the February Fiesta. So far, the Air Capital Aces are undefeated. We'll see if they become the champions of this tournament. Number 3 serving for the Aces. And it is way out of bounds. Point for the Oklahoma Peak. Score now is is 1 for the Peak and 2 for the Aces. Number 3 serving for the Peak. Serve is good, up by 24, but it's out of bounds. Tie game now, 2-2. Oklahoma Peak is serving. Number 3 is serving. It's a short serve. Good dig by number 24. Up by number 3. Up by number 4. Over by number 10. Good save for the team. Oh. Number 2 for the Peak killed it. Score for the Peak. Score now is 3 Peak, 2 for the Aces. Number 3 is serving for the Peak. Up by, and it's out of bounds on the Aces. Score for the Peak. Number 3 again serving for the Peak. It's good serve, up by 24, up by number 2. Number 3 gets it over. Oh, number 24 goes in with a dig, but it doesn't get it over. Score for the Peak. Number 3 again serving. 24 is coming out. Number 27 is coming in for the Aces. Number 3 serving for the Peak. Up by number 27. Up by number 10. Over by 9. 2 gets it over. Up by 4. Up by 3. Over by number 4. And the kill for the Aces. Scores now 5 for the Peak, 3 for the Aces. Ball's coming back over to the Aces for them to serve. Number 10 is serving on the Aces. Good serve by number 10. Ball's in motion on the Peak side. Back over the net. Up by number 2. Over by number 3. Up by number 7. Number 9 gets it over the net. And that was out on the Aces. Point for the Peak. Ball goes back over. Number 5 now serving for the Oklahoma Peak. Up by number 10, but it's out of bounds. Score for the Peak. Score is now 7 Peak, 3 Aces.
Side out, Aces!
Up by number 27 and over. And the ball dies on the Peak side.
Let's go!
Good point for the Aces. Score is now 7 Peak and 4 for the Aces. Number 9 serving for the Aces. Good serve on the ace by number 9 on the Aces.
Yeah.
Peak doesn't get it across the net. Point for the Aces. Score is now 7 for the Oklahoma Peak and 5 for the Aces. Good serve by number 9. Up by number 24 gets it over, but it's out of bounds. Point for the Peak. And number 9 serving on the Peak side. Up by number 3. Number 9 bumps it, but it's out of bounds.
Come on, Aces.
Point for Oklahoma Peak. And on the Peak side, number 9 serving. Up by number 27, but it's out of bounds. Point for the Peak.
You gotta talk, ladies.
Call the ball.
Number 9 again serving for the Peak. Number 3 bumps it over, but it's out of bounds. Point for the Peak. Number 9 serving for the Oklahoma Peak. Up by number 9. Up by number 4. 24 just gets it over the net. Ball dies on the Peak side. Point for the Aces.
Come on, let's get some serve.
Score is now 11 for Oklahoma Peak and 6 for the Aces. Looks like number 4 is going to be serving for the Aces. And on the Aces side, 22's coming in, 3's coming out. Good serve by number 4. Up by number 2. Up by 24. Over by 2. And that is in. Point for the Oklahoma Peak. Score is now 12 for the Peak, 6 for the Aces. And the Aces side, 7's coming out, 6 is coming in, and number 6 is going to be serving. Up by 22, up by 2, over by 4. And out of bounds on the Oklahoma Peak. Point for the Aces. Score is now 12-7 with the Aces trailing. Number 27 is going to be serving here for the Aces.
Let's go, Nicole. You got this.
Good serve by number 27. Ball's in motion. Over the net, up by 27, up by 4, over by 2,
There you go.
and
All right.
out of bounds on the Peak. Score for the Aces.
Right.
Score is now 12-8. Aces still trailing. Number 27 serving for the Aces. Good serve by number 27. Up by number 9.
Up, Piper.
Up by number 4. Over by number 2. And the ball's out on the Oklahoma Peak. Point for the Aces. Number 27 serving for the Aces. And it's good. Ball's in motion.
Serve.
Up by 9. Up by 4.
Go, Brylan.
Over by 10. And it's out of bounds. It's out of bounds on the Oklahoma Peak. Point for the Aces. Score is now 12-10. Aces still trailing, but they're catching up. Timeout being called. We'll take a short break.
Well, you might need to go say something to somebody. Did they just change the score to 13-10 and it was...
Oh, it's just good. That's fixed it. They fixed it.
All right, players coming back on the court here. Score is 12-10. Number 27 serving for the Aces. Aces have the ball. And it was a long serve out of bounds. Point for the Peak. Score is now 13 Peak, 10 for the Aces. Number 11 serving for the for the Oklahoma Peak. Up by 2, up by 4, returned by 2, over into a dead zone. Point for the Aces. Not returned by the Oklahoma Peak.
Go for the block, you do that. You just
Do that.
tip it all day long. They're going to go for the block. You just dump it right over them.
Number 2 serving for the Aces. Serve is good. Ball's in motion. Good dig by number 2. Up by number 22 and over by 2. Just over the net by Oklahoma Peak. Not returned by the Aces. Score is now 14 for the Peak, 11 for the Aces. Number 10 now serving for Oklahoma Peak. Good serve by the Peak and up on 27 but out of bounds. Point for the Peak.
Side out, Aces.
Number 10 serving for Oklahoma Peak. Good dig by number 27 and over the net. Up by 9, up by 4, over by 9, and into a hole. Point for the Aces. Score is now 15 for the Peak, 12 for the Aces. We'll see if they can catch up and get ahead here. Number 3 now serving for the Aces.
Come on, Angela.
Good serve by number 3 and not returned by the Peak. Point for the Aces. Number 3 now serving for the Peak. Or number 3 serving for the Aces, excuse me. And it's out of bounds on the Peak. Point for the Aces. Score is now 15-14. It's a 1-point game for this set. Number 3 is serving for the Aces. Good serve by number 3. Ball's in motion. It's back across his net. It's up by 2, up by 3, over by 4. Out of bounds on the Oklahoma Peak. Point for the Aces. Now a tie game, 15-15 in this final championship round of the February Fiesta here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Number 3 serving for the Aces. Ball's back over the net, up by 4, up by 3, over by 4,
Good set, good set.
up by 2, up by 3, over the net. It's out of bounds, point for the Peak.
Side out, side out.
Number 3 now serving for Oklahoma Peak. Up by number 24, but out of bounds. Point for the Peak.
Side out, Aces, right here, right now.
Number 3 serving for Oklahoma Peak. Up by 24, up by 4, and into the net by 3. Point for the Peak.
Side out right now.
Number 3 serving for the Peak. And it's off of an Aces player and out of bounds, point for the Peak. Timeout being called. We'll see if this team can get their momentum back. All right, both teams coming out of timeout now, taking back to the court.
Let's go, Aces, side out.
Number 3 is going to be serving for the Oklahoma Peak. Up by number 24 and over. And it is in, point for the Aces. Number 10 serving for the Aces. Score is 19-16, Aces trailing. It's a good serve by number 10. And point for Oklahoma Peak. Score is now 20 for Peak, 16 for the Aces. Number 5 serving for Oklahoma Peak.
Side out.
Just over the net by number 5. Good up by number 10. Up by number 2. Over by number 9. Up by number 10. Up by number 24. 4 gets it over the net. Up by number 2. Up by number 3. And over by number 4. And the ball dies on the Oklahoma Peak side. Point for the Aces. A badly needed point. Number 9 is up to serve for the Aces. Good serve by number 9 into the weak corner and out of bounds on Oklahoma Peak. Point for the Aces. Score is now 20 for the Oklahoma Peak, 18 for the Aces. And a timeout being called. We'll take a short break here.
There we go, Aces.
Aces are getting pumped up. Close game here, 20 for Oklahoma Peak, 18 for the Aces.
Piper, just get it in, baby. Get it in.
Remember, this is a little bit longer game than normal. They normally start at 4 points. And this time they're starting at 0, playing to 25. Number 9 serving for the Aces, coming out of this timeout. It's a good serve. Ball's in play on the Oklahoma Peak side. Ball's over the net. Good dig by number 3. Good dig by number 24, but didn't quite get it over the net. Point for Oklahoma Peak. Number 9 serving for Oklahoma Peak. Up by number 3, up by number 2, over by number 24. Up by number 10, up by 2, over by number 24, just barely. 24 tips it back over. Up by number 9, up by 3,
Go, Posey.
over by 2,
Come on, Aces. Come on, Aces.
up by number 2, up by number 3. It looks like a net call. Point for Oklahoma Peak. Number 9 serving for the Peak. Up by number 3 and over. Up by 2, up by 24, and the ball dies on the Aces side. Point for Oklahoma Peak. Score now 23 for Peak, 18 for Aces.
Come on, Aces.
You gotta want this. Fight for it.
Number 9 serving for the Peak, up by number 27, over by number 4. And another point for the Peak. Score is now 24-18 with Peak serving. Number 9 serving for Oklahoma Peak. Up by 4, up by 24 and over. Up by number 3 and out of bounds on the Aces. That is 25 for Oklahoma Peak, 18 for the Aces. And the end of this first set of the final game here at the February Fiesta in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Hopefully we can catch them making some dumb mistakes. Yeah, and then we can get into it.
I wonder what their
This is it.
record was today. Do you know?
This is the final game. Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, like, the third set or whatever. Oh.
Just like us?
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I don't know if they do it by points or... Yeah. Well, sometimes they do it by number of points won. That's how they do pool play, because you don't play the extra set in pool play.
They'll do this one. They'll go to 3 if they have to. This one will go to 3 if they have to. Well,
if we win?
Yeah. So we're playing OP2.
Yeah.
13 fives.
Yeah.
So 20, 25, 15. Very close to.
So they dropped one set. I think that's it.
And then.
They're at the bottom. Yeah. Oh, they dropped one set there too. They dropped the second set.
So we are the better team.
All right, both teams coming back out on the court here. We're going to start this second set of the final game here at the February Fiesta in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Starting this set at 0-0, number 10 is going to be serving for Oklahoma Peak. Ball's away, up by 27, up by 3, over by 9. Point for the Peak, it was out of bounds. Number 10 serving for the Oklahoma Peak. Up by 27, out of bounds. Point for Oklahoma Peak.
Die for it. It's okay. You won't hurt us.
All right, number 10 serving for the Peak.
Side out.
Up by 2, up by 27. 3 gets it over. Up by 2, up by 3. 4 gets it over, but it's out of bounds. Point for the Peak. Score is now 3 Peak, 0 for the Aces. Number 10 serving for the Peak, up by 27, but out of bounds. Point for the Peak.
Tell him, Angela. Tell him.
Get him fired up, Angela.
All right, number 10 serving for the Peak. Up by 27. Good attempted save by number 2, but 2 and 4 crash into each other out of bounds, and the ball goes back over to Peak.
Fight for it.
Number 10 serving for the Peak, up by number 24, over by 3. And Peak tries to get it over, doesn't quite get it over. Aces get their first point of this set. Score now 5 for the Oklahoma Peak, 1 for the Aces. Number 10 serving for the Aces.
You got this, Rylan. Good serve.
Good serve into a hole. Point for the Aces.
He didn't touch it. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Number 10 serving for the Aces.
Right?
Good serve, buddy.
Good serve by number 10. Up by 10. Up by 3. 24 gets it over. Up by 2. Up by 3. 4 tips it over and into a hole. Not returned by Oklahoma Peak. Scores now 5 for the Peak, 3 for the Aces. And 10 again here serving for the Aces. Good serve by 10. Ball dies on the Peak side. Score for the Aces. Scores now 5 for the Peak, 4 for the Aces. They're catching up. Number 10 serving for the Aces. Number 4 tips it over. Over by 9. Ball dies on the Peak side, not over the net. Now a tie game, 5-5, with number 10 on the Aces serving. Good serve by number 10. Ball's in motion, and it's out. It's out on the Oklahoma Peak side. Ball caught by the cameraman. Score is now 5 for the Peak, 6 for the Aces as they pull ahead in the lead for the first time of this set. Number 10 serving. Ball's over the net, up by 2, up by 3, over by 9. And it's out of bounds on the Aces. Tie game again, 6-6. Point for the Oklahoma Peak.
Side out right here. Side out.
Number 3 serving for the Peak, and just tipped over by number 3 on the Aces. Into a hole. Point for the Peak. Score is now 7-6 with the Oklahoma Peak leading.
Fight for it. Keep going.
Number 3 serving for Oklahoma Peak, and it is out of bounds. Point for the Aces. Number 9 serving for the Aces. Good serve by number 9, just over the net. It is in. Point for the Peak. Score is now 8 Peak, 7 for the Aces.
Guard that corner.
Number 5 serving for Oklahoma Peak. Just over the net, up by 3, up by 4, over by 2. Returned by number 4, and a kill. Tie game again, 8-8, as the Aces bring it back. Number 27's coming in, number 9's coming out. Number 4 is going to serve for the Aces. Good serve by number 4. And right into a hole by the Oklahoma Peak. Score is now 9 Peak, 8 Aces. Number 9 serving for the Peak. And the ball is inbounds but not returned by the Aces. Point for Peak. Score is now 10-8. Peak leading. Number 9 serving for the Peak. Up by 22 and over. Good bump by number 27 and over. Up by number 27, up by 4. Over by 2. Up by 27, but 27 and 10 get in the way of each other. And they lose the ball. Ball goes back over to the Peak. Number 9 serving for the Peak. Score is now 11-8 with the Peak leading. Number 9 serving for the Peak. Good serve, up by 2, up by 4. Number 22 sends it. And it is in. Point for the Aces. Ball goes back to the Aces. Number 9 coming in. Number 27 serving. Good serve by 27. Up by 27, up by 4, up by 22 and over. Up by number 9, up by number 10. 2 gets it over. And out of bounds on the Peak, point for the Aces. Score is now 10 for the Aces and 11 for Peak. Very close game here. 27 again serving for the Aces. Good serve by number 27 into that back far corner. And the ball dies on the Peak side. Point for the Aces. Score is now 11-11. Tie game with number 27 serving for the Aces. Good serve by number 27. Up by 9. And it is inbounds for the Peak. Not returned by the Aces. 12 for the Peak, 11 for the Aces. Number 6 serving for the Peak.
Side out, fight for it.
And a short serve by the Peak. Point for the Aces. Tie game, 12-12. Number 2 now serving for the Aces. Amazing serve by number 2, just barely in the lines. Point for the Aces. Aces pull ahead of the Peak. Score is now 12 for the Oklahoma Peak, 13 for the Air Capital Aces. Number 2 still serving for the Aces.
Keep it in. You got this, Tom. Block.
Up by number 10, up by 4. 10 gets it over. Up by number 9, and just short of going over the net.
Set it up. Set it up.
Tie game, 13-13, with the Peak serving. Number 11 serving for the Peak. Up by number 27, up by number 9. 10 gets it over. Good dig by number 27, and they save it. Amazing play. Up by number 4, just barely over. And the ball dies on the Oklahoma Peak side. Point for the Aces. 13-14, Aces leading. Number 22 is coming out. Number 3 is coming in. Number 3 is going to serve. All right, number 3 serving for the Aces. And the ball dies on the Oklahoma Peak side, out of bounds in the back far corner. Score is now 13 Peak, 15 Aces, with the Aces pulling ahead. Timeout being called. We'll take a short break here. All right, both teams coming out of timeout here. Number 3 is going to be serving for the Aces. Score is 13 for the Oklahoma Peak, 15 for the Aces. Good serve by number 3. Ball's back over the net. It's going to be up by 3. Tipped over by 9. Up by 9. And it's out of bounds on the Aces. Point for the Oklahoma Peak. And number 10 serving for the Peak. And it's just barely over. Good dig by number 27. Up by 3, up by 9. Over by 3, but into the net, not over. Point for the Peak.
Come on, Aces!
Tie game again, 15-15, with the Oklahoma Peak serving. Number 10 serving for the Peak. Looks like the ref's clarifying something here for the Aces. Number 10 is going to be serving. Up by 4, up by 3, over by 9. A little bit too much and out of bounds. Point for the Peak.
Come on, Aces, side out, Aces!
Close game here. Aces need to win this set to be able to have a third set. Otherwise, this game will be over. Good dig by number 27, but not quite enough. Not over the net. Point for Oklahoma Peak.
You are in this.
You are still in this. Fight for it, Aces.
All right, number 10 serving for the Oklahoma Peak. Up by number 2, up by number 3, over by number 9. It is out of bounds. Point for the Peak.
Come on, Aces, side out.
Number 10 serving for the Peak. And right into a hole. Number 4 wasn't able to get it. Point for the Peak.
Aces, side out. Come on, let's get a rally.
Side out, Aces.
Number 10 serving for the Peak. Up by 4, up by 3, over by 9. Up by 2, up by 3. 10 gets it over. And Oklahoma Peak tips it over into a hole on the side of the Aces. Point for the Peak. Score now is 20 for the Oklahoma Peak, 15 for the Aces.
Aces, side out.
Number 10 serving for the Oklahoma Peak.
Fight for it. You got this.
Up by number 27, but it's out of bounds. Point for the Peak. Number 10 serving for the Oklahoma Peak. Up by number 2, up by number 3, over by number 9. Some nice speed into a hole, and it's not returned. Point for the Aces. Number 10 serving for the Aces. Good serve by 10. And the ball dies on the Aces side. Point for the Oklahoma Peak. Number 3 serving for Oklahoma Peak.
Rally back, guys. You can do this.
Up by 9 and into the net, not over. Point for Oklahoma Peak. Score now is 23 Peak, 16 Aces.
Fight for it.
Dig in, Aces.
Number 3 serving for Oklahoma Peak. And ball dies on the Aces side. Another point for Oklahoma Peak. Score now is 24-16 with the Oklahoma Peak leading. Number 3 serving for the Peak. Just over the net, and game-winning point for Oklahoma Peak. Aces here had a good run. They were undefeated until this last game, and that means they take second place in this February Fiesta tournament here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.